Lovely. So let's start. Let's start in child's pose today. So any version that feels good to start with. You can have your knees together, you can have them apart. You can reach the arms forward if you wish, or you can have them alongside your legs, nice and heavy, sinking down into the ground. Just taking a few moments to get settled, and maybe taking a few little sighs as well. So just breathing in through the nose and gently letting the breath go out of the mouth. Keeping the breath soft. And then taking a moment to run a little body scan, just taking a moment to check in. So you can work down from the top of your head to your fingertips and toes, or you can work from the bottom up if you prefer. But just taking a moment to notice how everything is feeling this morning. Just letting your breath be nice and natural for the moment. Noticing how your breath feels. Noticing if you take a longer breath in or a longer breath out, or are they the same? Start to notice different qualities, different sensations about your breath. Starting to draw your breath a little bit deeper. Noticing how that feels. Trying to find a steady pace to breathe at for the next 50 minutes or so. Nice steady breath in, steady breath out. Noticing where that breath is sitting. If it feels like it's sitting quite forward in your chest, see if you can draw the breath down in towards your belly button and maybe into the back of the ribs as well. And keeping the breath nice and steady, but using an inhale to lift yourself up to a kneeling position. So we're going to use one block for our hands. If you need to pop the other block under your bum to help lift your hips up, if you tend to get pins and needles in kneeling, then you can do that as well. So we're going to do wrists first. So just pop that to one side for the moment. And then, I think we did this last week, we can do that quacky thing. So I'm going to start with the arms down by the side, and you're going to do two things at once, multitasking for a Sunday morning. So you're going to crack with your little fingers, and you're going to slowly inhale to raise the arms all the way up, and then keep the fingers going. You're going to breathe out, bring the arms all the way down. So it doesn't really matter how fast your hands are going, but make sure that your arms are following your breath. So inhale to bring them all the way up, and exhale to take them all the way back down. If you feel like challenging yourself on a Sunday morning with your multitasking skills, you can start to crack a little bit faster. But try to keep the arms moving at the same steady speed with your breath. Two more of these. Last one. Give the hands a little shake out. The wrists nice and floppy. I'm just going to do some shoulder rolls. So using a full breath to complete a circle, nice and slow. Trying to keep the spine, the ribs kind of still, so it's almost like your shoulders are rolling around your ribs. One more in this direction. And then switching back the other way. One more. Then we're going to grab our block. So you're just going to lay your hands nice and flat on each end. You're going to inhale to bring the brick up overhead. And then on an exhale, just notice where your elbows are in relation to your head. So notice how close they are and notice how far forward they are. That's going to depend on your shoulder tightness. And you're going to try and do this exercise whilst keeping sort of the upper arm in a similar position to where it is now as you possibly can. So as you exhale, just going to bend the elbow so the block lowers behind your head. And as you inhale, lift it back up. So keeping that going, exhaling to bend the elbows, block disappears. And inhale to lift it back up. Keeping that going, just keeping an eye on those elbows. And notice if they're going away from your head. Notice if they're coming forward as you bend. See if there's anything you can do to keep them a little bit more under control. Last one. You can just pop your block down to one side. Do the eagle arms, try to stretch out. So 3 options here. You're going to inhale to take the arms out nice and wide to start with. On an exhale, let's cross the right arm underneath first. So crossing at the elbows. Option 1 is just to give yourself a little hug and keep the elbows at shoulder height. Option 2 is to bring up the arms so the backs of the hands are against each other. Again, shoulders at elbow. Other way around, elbows at shoulder height. Final option is to bind the hands. If you're binding the hands, you're trying to press them into each other in the same, facing away. So each hand is facing to the side. And elbows at shoulder height again. And if you've got your hands bound, just make sure your hands aren't kind of collapsing in towards your face. Try and keep them lifted away from the face. Taking nice big breaths. Taking one more breath. If you're hugging yourself, stay there. If you've got the hands up, come back to the little hug. Just take a couple of breaths here. On your next inhale, we're going to open out the arms nice and wide. Exhale, switch the cross. So same options. We can have the hug. We can have the hands back to back, or pressing palm to palm. Wherever you are, elbows up at shoulder height. And if the arms are up, just make sure they're away from the face. Nice, steady breaths. Just gazing forward, nice soft focus with the eyes for your drishti. Or you can close your eyes if that feels better. If you're in your hug, staying there. If your arms are up, come back to the hug. Keep the elbows up. Couple of nice big breaths here. On an inhale, opening out the arms, reaching to the sides. Nice big breaths. And taking the arms behind you, take hold of opposite elbows. If you are flexible enough to find a reverse prayer, feel free to do that instead. Otherwise, sitting nice and tall, just holding on to opposite elbows. Breathing nice and deep. If you are holding elbows, see if you can switch the grip. One more breath. Releasing the arms, and take away your block if you're sitting on one, and coming to all fours. So have a moment to have a little wriggle if you need a little wriggle. Just going to warm up the wrists a little bit. So you just have the hands nice and flat, fingers spread wide, fingertips away from you. I'm just going to gently, with each breath, switch hands. So you're going to flip the hand over so the fingers are towards you, and then take it back. And that's not in shot. So flipping the hand over and taking it back. Swapping sides. Nice and slowly. If when we're doing lots of tabletop, lots of down dogs, this can be a nice little way to just release any tension in the wrists in between sides, if that feels good. I don't know what that's beeping. Give me 1 second while you set up your tabletop. That was my phone ringing. So, setting up your tabletop, thinking about pressing into your fingers, pressing into the knuckles at the base of the fingers and your thumbs as well. Having a nice long spine, knees underneath your hips. We'll do some cat-cow. So on your next breath in, tipping the pelvis, dropping the belly, looking up and forward as you broaden through the chest. And then exhale to arch the back to the sky, letting the head hang heavy. Keeping that going, so inhaling to roll forward. Exhale to arch the back. You can close the eyes, soften your focus. If you want to add different shapes in, maybe side to side movement or anything like that, you're more than welcome to. Taking one more breath. And then finding your way back to child's pose. Using your next breath to bring you back up to a tabletop. We're going to work on the lower half of the body this time. So finding a nice solid place to start with. A nice long spine. Make sure you're pressing the ground away, using those fingers, using those thumbs. And we're going to start with the left knee, just lifting it off, starting to draw some little circles with it. So maybe starting with small circles, seeing how that hip feels and allowing those circles to become bigger and bigger. Exploring how that hip feels this morning. When it's as big as it wants to be, switch direction. And then start to let that circle become smaller and smaller until you bring that knee back down to the ground. Have a little wriggle, readjust, reset if you need it. And then the same on the other side. So drawing a little circle with that right knee. Exploring how that feels in the joint at the top. And allowing that shape, that movement to grow. When you're ready, switching, going back the other way. And then starting to make that circle smaller, smaller, until the knee comes back down to the ground. Again, have a little reset, maybe release the wrists if they're a little bit, feeling it a little bit. Pressing through the fingertips again, resetting, nice long spine. You're going to stick out the left leg behind you, toes on the ground, pressing out through that heel. Try not to let the upper body kind of collapse too much. So you can keep the left leg down where it is. You can float it up to hip height. We're going to do some curls. So you can keep coming back to the toe. The leg is stretched out, the toe can be down or it can be up. There's also an option to reach that right arm forward. So you're nice and long through the body. On an exhale, you're going to round the back as you bring the elbow and knee together. And inhale to stretch out to find that nice long line again. So exhale, arching the back as though you're in cat as the knee and elbow come together. Inhale, finding that long spine, keeping that going. When you come back to reach forward, just make sure that foot doesn't float up behind above the hip. Try and keep it in line. And two more. And then releasing down. Giving the hips a little wiggle, maybe giving the wrists a little break. And then really setting, sticking the right leg out behind you, toes down, pressing out through that heel. Nice steady breath. If you want to float that right leg up, feel free, you can stay where it is. If you prefer, option to reach the left arm forward. Just get a sense of this sort of starting point and how everything feels as you're holding here. On the exhale, you're going to bring the elbow knee together around the back. Inhale to lengthen. If you're not using the arm, then as you exhale, your knee and your nose are going to come together. Inhale to lengthen out. Each exhale makes you a little bit smaller. Each inhale makes you nice and long. Two more. When you're done, finding your way to a child's pose. Maybe give the hips a little wiggle side to side. In your child's pose, reaching the arms forward. We're going to set up for a down dog. So spreading the fingers nice and wide. Arms shoulder width apart, probably a little bit wider, particularly if they're feeling a little bit tight. And then when you're ready, tucking your toes, lifting your hips up behind you, focusing on finding a straight line through the spine first. The shoulders are still feeling tight, maybe bring the weight forward and then press them back to the down dog. Again, a couple of times. Have any little wriggles that you need, maybe side to side. Thinking about pressing the ground firmly away from you, lifting the hips up to the join of the ceiling and the wall behind you, wrapping the shoulder blades around the ribs for a bit of extra support. And we're going to walk the hands backwards towards the feet, maybe take the feet a little wider. Nice big bend in the knees, finding a ragdoll forward fold. So letting gravity do some work here for you. Letting the head be heavy and soft. Check in on your face and your jaw, your tongue, make sure all of those things are nice and relaxed. Have a little sway from side to side if that feels nice. Almost like in this one, the bigger the bend in the knees, the better. So try and stretch out that back. One more breath down here. And then using an inhale to start to lift up, take your time as you unroll, keeping the knees soft, chin tucked all the way to the very end. Standing up nice and tall. Lovely. So we're going to do this little sequence we've done a few times before. There is a balance in here as well. So yeah, Freya, see how you go. If your knee's being funny today. And we're going to give an added option. We're going to have some blocks to play with as well. So these are going to have to kind of come with us. So for now, if you place them kind of about as far as you can comfortably reach on their tool setting. And you might need to adjust them, but that's generally a good place to start with. So we're going to start with the feet parallel. And stand the hands on the hips, just so you can use your hands to get a sense of where your hips are facing. So notice where they are when you're standing in this sort of neutral position. And then we're going to step the right foot forward just far enough so that both heels are still down on the ground. So everyone's stance is going to be a little bit different. My blocks are too close to me, but it will depend on your stance. So make sure your hips are still in that kind of shape that they were when your feet were together, still facing the same direction. Pressing through both feet, pressing through both heels. Take a breath in and lift up through the front of the chest a little bit. As you exhale, hinge at the hips, so you're keeping the back in this shape. Try to keep the hips stable as you tip forward. So everyone's going to probably come to forward a different amount. You want to try and keep the spine nice and long, still trying to keep a little bit of that lift through the front of the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades a little bit together. Depending on how far forward you've come, you might want to take the hands down to your blocks. If you're doing that, you want the blocks a little bit forward of the foot so that you're still reaching the chest forward. Now, if that becomes too strong in the back of the right leg, take the hands back to the hips, lift the chest up a little bit higher. Nice steady breaths, pressing through the feet, hips nice and stable, long spine. On an inhale, taking the hands back to the hips and then starting to lift the chest back up. So you're standing nice and tall, take a breath out here. On your next inhale, you're going to step onto that front foot, bring the left knee up to hip height. Next inhale is going to sweep the arms up overhead. Then we're going to find a twist. So turning towards the bent leg. Back hand can come to the lower back. Front hand can come to the outside of the knee. Keeping the spine nice and long. If you're feeling nice and stable, you can start to switch your gaze, turn to look a little bit further behind you. Taking one more breath. Use an inhale to gently bring yourself to face front, reach the arms up overhead, and then exhale to step the foot down. Give the legs a little wiggle if they need it. Stretch out the soles of the feet if they're a little bit crumpy, a little bit whingy. Lovely. And then resetting, feet parallel and just shuffling those blocks a little bit further away. So you're roughly in the middle of your mat now. Blocks are sort of towards the front a bit. Hands back on your hips, just noticing again where they are when they're in neutral, what direction they're facing. And then this time stepping the left foot forward. Again, heels staying down, pressing into the earth, trying to get those hips stable again. Inhale to lift through the front of the chest. Exhale to hinge at the hips, trying to keep that length through the front of the body, trying to stretch out the bottom of the back. Maybe just tipping less far for the first couple of breaths, seeing how that feels, and then exploring if there's more space. Trying to keep those hips nice and stable. Again, option to lower the hands down onto the blocks if you want, trying to keep that long spine and open chest. One more breath. Then bringing the hands to the hips, lifting the chest back up nice and tall. Then we're going to step forward onto the left foot, bring that right knee up to hip height. Use your next inhale to sweep the arms up, and exhale to find the twist on this side. So take a moment to set up, trying to keep the eyes focused. And if you're feeling stable, then maybe start to look over the back shoulder. Breathing nice and steady. If you fall out, don't worry about it. Just start again. On your next inhale, reaching up as you face forward. Exhale to place the foot back down. Give it all a little shake. Out. Stretch the soles of the feet out if they need it. And finding your Tadasana, your mountain pose, towards the front of your mat. So your feet can be together or a little way apart, whatever feels most solid for you. And starting to press down through the whole foot so it's nice and active. You can take the blocks just off to the side, but leave them where they are. We need them in a second. On an inhale, we're going to sweep the arms up overhead. On an exhale, we're going to fold forward, so softening the knees if you need to. On an inhale, bring the fingertips to the shins, looking up and forward, squeeze the shoulder blades together for a nice flat back. Then on an exhale, you're going to take the fingertips down and step the right leg back behind you. Stay on your fingertips, lift the chest as you look forward. So you're lunged in that front knee. Fingertips down, long through the body. So if your chest is resting on your thigh, bring those blocks back in and lift the chest away from the thigh. If your knee is substantially forward of your ankle, see if you can shuffle the foot a little bit forward just to open up through the hips a bit more. Okay, one more breath here, lifting through the chest. Okay, just pop your blocks down, place the hands flat on the ground, bring the right knee to the ground, and then inhale to lift up into a lunge. Lovely, nice. Long reach up through those fingertips, pressing down through the feet, the knee. On an exhale, take the hands down to the ground inside the left foot so you can send the left foot back to a tabletop. And from here, you've got a choice of child's pose or downward facing dog. Whichever one you're in, try to breathe nice and steady. If you're in child's, coming up to down dog just for one breath. Then everyone's going to walk their feet forward, going behind the wrists, taking a nice big bend in the knees, finding your ragdoll forward fold. Again, letting everything be heavy, maybe having a little sway side to side, face soft, jaw soft, maybe give it a little wriggle side to side. Then on an inhale, unrolling, coming all the way up to stand at the top of the mat again. Adjusting your feet, finding your mountain pose, your Tadasana. You use an inhale to sweep the arms up. Exhale to fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fingertips down. You're going to send the left foot back long behind you this time. So the right knee is nice and bent, and then inhale to lift the chest. So again, if you're trying to make space through the front of the body, so if your chest is on that right thigh, then maybe bring the blocks back, lifting up a little bit higher. You might also need to adjust the distance between your feet if that helps. We're thinking about lifting the front of the body. We probably want to look up a little bit. Generally, where we look helps find that direction. On your next exhale, we're going to drop the left knee. Inhale to come up to that lunge. Reaching for the sky, nice big breath. On your next exhale, hands come down inside that right foot. Right leg can go back towards a tabletop, and then just moving your blocks out the way and making a decision whether you want to go to child's pose or downward facing dog again. Doesn't have to be the same thing you did last time. Do whatever feels right now. If you're in down dog, use the next exhale to bring your knees to the earth. And everyone can use the inhale to unroll, coming up to a kneeling pose, just for a breath. And then we're going to swing our legs round in front of us. We're going to grab our straps. So sitting up nice and tall, legs are aiming to be out straight, pressing through the heels, toes up towards the sky and coming back towards the face a little bit. So if your lower back or your back is a little bit rounded, maybe grab a block and sit on the edge of it, almost though it feels like you're falling off it, to tip the pelvis. This won't work for everyone. Let's see if that helps you sit up a little bit taller. If it's more the backs of the legs that are complaining, then you can add a little bend in the knees. Just finding a spot that feels good. Feet should be flexed wherever you're at. So you're going to inhale to reach up to the sky. And you're going to exhale to fold forward, just reaching the chest forward, reaching the arms forward. So notice where you're at and then grab your strap. So keep your chest where you are, grab your strap. You're gonna maybe have to come out a little bit just to place the strap over the balls of the foot. So coming back to find that lifted chest, folding forward, straight arms to grab the strap either side of your feet, and then lifting the chest a little bit higher, a little bit longer through the front of the body, still pressing out through the heels, still flexing the feet. So some people will be quite high up still, some people might be able to crawl their hands a little bit further forward, but just notice how that feels to have that lift through the front of the body and that fold at the hips. Taking one more breath here. And very gently going to sit up nice and tall, get rid of the strap. You can bend the right knee, so the sole of the right foot comes into the left thigh. Again, flexing through that foot, we're going to find a twist. So you're going to send the right arm up and over as you turn to look behind you. If you've got short arms, you can always pop your hand on a block so you're not tipping back too much. Left hand can come to the outside of the thigh or the knee. Sitting nice and tall, nice big breaths. One more breath, still sitting long through the spine. Inhale to come forward. Now bend the the left foot up to meet the right first. Sitting nice and tall, fingertips to the ground or the blocks behind you. So you've got a nice long spine still. On an inhale, you're going to press your big toes into each other. As you exhale, press the outer edge of the foot into the mat beneath you. Do that twice more. So inhale to press your big toes. Exhale to press down. Last one. Inhale, big toe squeeze. Exhale to press into the ground beneath you. Holding there, breathing nice and steady. Still trying to sit up as tall as you can. One more breath here. And we're going to send the right leg out straight. Release the hands, sitting up nice and tall, flexing that right foot. On an inhale, we're going to sweep the left arm up and over. Fingertips find the block or the ground, finding the twist on this side. Nice big breaths. One more breath in your twist. On an inhale, bring yourself to front. If you've got a block, bring it with you. Bring the soles of the feet together and slide the feet away from you. So you're trying to make as big a diamond shape in front of you as you possibly can. Grab your blocks. It's going to take a little bit of work, but we're going to roll forward like we've done before. But you're going to make a little tower with your blocks and rest your forehead on one of them. So it might take a few little attempts to work out where is the right height. And then focusing in on your breath. Taking one more breath here. Using an inhale to gently lift yourself back up to seated. Moving your bricks out of the way. Just making sure there's enough space behind you, bringing yourself down onto your back. You can do a little happy baby. We're going to do, so it's not one that's for everyone, and we haven't done an awful lot of hip work. So we're going to do 2 half happy babies. If your hips if you love a happy baby, feel free to just hold it for 10 breaths in a full happy baby. Otherwise, we're going to go in and do half and half, 5 breaths each. So knees are bent, soles of the feet on the ground. We're going to do the right side first. So you're going to bring the right knee in towards the armpit and try and get a right angle in your knee joint and flex the foot. And you're going to just grab a hold of the foot and lie back down onto the ground. If your foot is really, really far away from you, you can pop the strap over the ball of the foot and hold on to that instead. The knee is aiming for your armpit. Breathing nice and steady. One more breath. Very gently releasing the right foot, letting it go back down to the ground. And we'll take it to the other side. So left knee is making its way towards your left armpit, trying to find a sort of right angle shape in the knee, foot nice and flexed. You can sit up and grab the foot with the hand and then lie back down on the ground. Or again, if that foot is miles away, get the strap over the ball of the foot and hold on to that. Focusing in on your breath. Knee aiming for your armpit so it's wide of your body. One more breath here. And gently releasing your foot, letting it drop back down to the ground, stretching out both legs, reaching the arms up overhead so you're nice and thin like a pencil down the middle of your mat. A nice big stretch. And then whenever you're ready, find your way to your Shavasana. So if you want to use props, if you need a blanket, grab them. It can sometimes feel nice to just pop your bricks underneath your thighs for an alternative. Take a moment to get comfortable. Start to relax the body. Trying to find a shape, position where you're doing as little work as possible. Letting the ground beneath you take over all the work involved in holding you. Taking a nice full breath in through the nose, filling up the belly, the ribs. And then a long sigh out of the mouth, all the way to empty. You want to take another sigh, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, just letting your breath settle to a natural rhythm. Taking a moment to check in with your body. Notice the ground beneath you. Allow yourself to drift. Give yourself a few minutes of rest. Starting to bring your attention back to your body. Take a nice big breath in. Sighing out the mouth, noticing how that feels. Checking in again with the body. Allowing some movement to start to come back. Starting small. Allowing the movement to grow, taking any shapes that feel good. Maybe having a nice big stretch. Drawing your knees into your chest, giving yourself a little hug. And rolling over onto whichever side you find most comfortable. Trying to keep the body soft and relaxed. You can stay here for a few breaths. You can start to use your hands to push yourself towards seated, whichever is most comfortable. There's no rush. Once you're up, having any last little wriggles, last little stretches, finding some stillness. Maybe your hands rest over your heart, maybe they find prayer. Taking a little moment to thank each other for sharing this practice, for coming together. To thank yourself for making time this morning, for doing the work. Bringing the hands to prayer, taking the prayer to the forehead. It's a reminder to think kind thoughts. Taking the prayer to the lips for kind words. And taking it to the heart for kind actions. When you're ready, marking the end of the practice with a little bow.